Welcome to this new podcast from the BBC.
Today we are going to talk about how to attract your target audience.
Hi there, this is Monica, and I'm going to be talking about my magazine, Opaque.
So, what is the number one key thing to attracting your audience to your magazine?
I found that the main thing when attracting my target audience to my magazine was to find the likes and interests of my target audience and incorporate all these things inside my magazine. I did this by doing research into the types of things they like to see in my magazine. I have a piece of research on my Wix blog called Audience Expectations, where I asked a couple of people to write down what they would expect to see in a alternative rock magazine. Most people said album reviews, so they know what to listen to and which music is the best at the moment. I use this in my magazine in order to get this aspect of their preference in my magazine, and I also had things like certain artists that they wanted commentary on, which I had in my magazine also.
But surely not everybody likes the same artists or songs or albums. Is that correct?
Yes, that's correct, but what I did was I included a wide variety of artists to ensure that there will be something for every individual person, not just rather than just focusing on like 2 or 3 artists, because that then narrows down my target audience.
Which gender is it aimed at and how is this shown?
My magazine is aimed at both genders, and I've shown this in the colour scheme and also the type of information presented. It is appealing to both males and females. Also, although there's a female on my front cover, there are also male artists that have been mentioned and will continue to be mentioned, rather than just having more female artists. Also, there is a consistent house style of red and black, which I thought represents the alternative rock genre very well and doesn't just appeal to one gender, as stereotypically pink would be more females, blue would be more males. However, I think that this in some cases doesn't even make a difference, as it's more about the content of the magazine itself, which either way, the colour scheme and the content is both appealing to males and females.
I see. And how else, apart from these mentions, how else did you make sure that they buy this magazine rather than another music magazine?
Of course, when producing any magazine, it's essential to make sure you have promotive language to encourage them to buy it, which means having language such as win or exclusive on the front cover. But in order to feed this into my target audience in particular, I made sure they could win tickets to events that they'd like to go to. For example, in the top right hand of my magazine, I have Winger Hangout with Bring Me the Horizon, which is essentially allowing the people to meet this band, which is a very big thing for the fans. And then I also have a vinyl that could be one, which I'm sure some people will be very pleased with, as they are actually very rare. So I narrowed it down to things that not every magazine can offer, but then also things that my target audience would like to see in particular.
Well, I'm sure you didn't get every single aspect correct the first time round, did you? If not, what did you do to come around these problems and improve the second time?
Well, no, of course not. It was a trial and error thing. For example, my front page had a different picture of my artist in which she wore a dress, which to some people was quite revealing and not appropriate for the genre of music, as women in media can be sexualized in many magazines, for example, but when looking at rock or alternative rock magazines, they are usually more sophisticatedly dressed, whereas in a hip hop magazine or R&B magazine, that's where they would wear more sexualized and provocative clothing. So to improve this, I made her dress more appropriate to what the dress sense of my target audience is. At the moment, in the picture that is on the front cover, my artist is wearing a denim jacket and a black t-shirt. This makes her more relatable and realistic, rather than, for example, being a really materialized girl on the front cover. In this way, she's more of an aspiring young female to my target audience.
Ah, very well. So you've talked about the colour scheme, the picture. What about the language itself? Like, I know you said about promotive language, but what about the actual content inside the magazine? Does that matter?
Yes, of course, every single aspect is very important. When, for example, doing my contents page, I didn't want to give in to too much formal language, but at the same time, I didn't want to use colloquial language as this could seem quite patronising. Therefore, I used formal language, but in a tone of voice that was more chatty and fun to read, without like going into loads of detail and repetitiveness. I just stuck to the point and took out the most important things that need to be mentioned and broke it down in that way. Also, instead of having one contents page, I have two, so that the information is broken down and easier to read. Additionally, on my double page spread, the story is quite wordy, but it's not just a question and answer type of interview. It's written in the form of a story, so it can be more engaging and help the reader actually visualize and feel as though they're there, as I felt that my target audience would like to read something more imaginative due to their younger age.
Ah, yes. Well, thank you. Thank you for showing here today and letting us interview you. We hope your magazine sells well.
Thank you, it was my pleasure. See you next time.